All right, so we're diving deep today.
Deep diving.
Yeah, into
the depth
the depths
of men's health and fitness.
Absolutely.
And we've got this really interesting conversation that we pulled from the Fit and Amp Fierce podcast.
A great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
Yeah.
And they covered a lot of ground. I mean, they went everywhere from like, why this is even a topic that we should care about to, how to set achievable fitness goals to dealing with like mental barriers and understanding the power of nutrition and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then like landed on some real practical tips.
Practical, that's what we need.
That's what we need, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna distill all this down for you so you can walk away.
Synthesize it.
Synthesize it, yes. Yeah. And walk away with a clear picture of how to prioritize your well-being.
Because that's what matters.
That's what matters.
It really is, at the end of the day.
And something that I think struck me as we were going through Fit and Amp Fierce is how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
It's not just like we're going to exercise and that's it. We're going to diet, sleep.
Mental health.
All of that plays into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So why even have a conversation specifically about men's health?
Right.
Like what makes this a topic that deserves its own spotlight?
Yeah.
And Fit and Amp Fierce pointed out something, and I wonder if you've experienced this too, but
yeah,
it's so easy for health to slip down your priority list.
Oh, yeah.
When life gets busy.
Totally.
It's like everything else jumps the queue and your well-being's like...
Yeah, you're putting out fires somewhere else.
Yeah.
Black
burner.
And your own health is the thing that gets neglected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fit and Amp Fierce, they talked about how men might put off those routine checkups.
Right.
Maybe, ignore early warning signs their body is sending.
Oh, totally.
Or just straight up avoid talking about health concerns.
Yep.
And then, of course, what happens is, small things that could have been managed become big problems.
Yeah. And they brought up this point about, maybe there's this cultural expectation for men.
Oh, yeah.
To be tough.
To be strong.
And not show vulnerability.
The strong, silent type.
Yeah. Yeah. And they made this argument like taking proactive steps for your health, looking after yourself.
That's strength.
That's true strength.
Right there.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a really important point to emphasize because, we live in a world right now where there's so much pressure on everybody, but men especially, I think, feel this pressure to be, invincible and to never admit to any weakness. And I think what Fit and Amp Fierce is saying is that real strength comes from recognizing that you have vulnerabilities and that you are not perfect and taking steps to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
That's real strength.
And it really is about, reframing what strength even means. Yeah. It's not about like pretending you don't have any weaknesses. It's about actually addressing them.
Exactly. Yeah. And dealing with them head on.
Yeah. So, okay, we've talked about why men's health gets overlooked.
Right.
Let's talk about fitness goals.
Okay.
Now, Fit and Amp Fierce pointed out that men often focus on building muscle and getting that,
the physique.
That look.
The six-pack abs.
Yeah. And they asked this really good question. They said, how do we balance wanting to look good with the need for overall health and something they called functional fitness? What is that all about?
Well, I think functional fitness really comes down to being able to live your life to the fullest and without limitations.
Okay.
So it's not just about how you look in the mirror. It's about being able to do the things you want to do and need to do on a daily basis.
Right.
So, Fit and Amp Fierce.
Yeah.
Use some really relatable examples like, can you run around with your kids without getting completely out of breath?
I love that.
Can you lift a heavy bag of groceries without hurting yourself?
Right.
These are things that are important for everyday life.
Yeah. And that's kind of a different way of looking at fitness than I think a lot of people think about.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important perspective to have.
And they also brought in the mental health aspect.
Oh, absolutely.
Saying that exercise can be such a great mood booster and stress reliever.
It really is.
Especially for men who might feel that pressure to always be in control.
Right. And not show any weakness.
Yeah.
Which we were just talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. But exercise is a great way to release those endorphins.
Yeah.
And feel good, both physically and mentally.
And they didn't just talk about lifting weights. They really emphasized this well-rounded approach to fitness. So they talked about cardio for your heart health.
Right.
Flexibility training to stay mobile.
So you don't get stiff.
And recovery. Which I think a lot of people forget about.
So important.
Yeah, and even like mental exercises like meditation and mindfulness.
That's right.
Yeah.
They talked about all of it.
Which I think is really important.
It is.
Yeah, and really speaks to this idea of like a holistic approach to well-being.
Absolutely, because it's all connected.
Yeah, okay, so we've covered like, the physical fitness aspect.
Right.
But what about mental health barriers?
Yeah.
Because Fit and Amp, Fierce really went there.
They did.
And they were talking about how things like anxiety and depression can really affect your motivation to exercise.
Right, absolutely.
And your ability to stick with it.
Yeah.
And there's that reluctance some men might feel to even talk about these issues.
Well, huge reluctance to talk about it.
And I think that's a problem because if you don't talk about it, it's hard to get help.
You can't address it.
Yeah, and what did Fit and Amp Fierce have to say about that?
Well, they highlighted a really interesting point about how this can become a vicious cycle.
Okay.
Poor mental health makes you less likely to want to exercise.
Right.
But then not exercising can actually worsen your mental health.
So it's like a downward spiral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah. And it can be really hard to get out of that.
It can be. But Fit and Amp, Fierce, offered some really great advice.
Okay, what did they say?
They said you don't have to make huge changes to start seeing a difference.
Okay.
Even small adjustments like going for a daily walk or hitting the gym a couple of times a week can make a big impact on both your physical and mental well-being.
And that's really encouraging.
It is.
Because it feels achievable.
Right.
Like you don't have to become a triathlete tomorrow.
Exactly. You just need to start somewhere.
Start small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and build from there.
That's right.
And they also really stress the importance of reaching out for support. Talking to someone, whether that's a mental health professional, a friend, a family member, don't suffer in silence.
Yeah, because there is help available.
Yeah, and sometimes just talking about it can make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about fitness goals. We talked about mental health barriers.
Right.
What about nutrition and lifestyle?
Oh, yes, the fuel.
The fuel for the machine.
Yeah, and Fit and Amp Fierce was really clear about this. They said nutrition is absolutely fundamental to men's health.
Fundamental.
Yeah, they basically said you can't out-exercise a bad diet.
You can't outrun a donut.
You can't outrun the donut.
Every day.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
So what do they specifically recommend?
Well, they talked about the importance of getting enough protein.
Okay.
Lean protein.
Okay.
Healthy fats. And the right kinds of carbs.
For energy.
Yeah. And also staying properly hydrated.
Oh, yeah. Water.
Water is so important.
So important. And they weren't just talking about guzzling protein shakes all day long.
Okay.
They were talking about getting your nutrients from whole foods.
Okay.
Fruits, vegetables, lean meats.
Got it.
Whole grains.
So it's really about like a balanced approach.
It is.
To nutrition.
Yeah. And something that I think is often overlooked is the importance of sleep.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to fitness and recovery.
Yeah. Why do you think people forget about sleep?
I think it's because we live in a culture that glorifies busyness and productivity, and sleep is often seen as something that's, for the weak or for the lazy.
Right.
But actually, sleep is when your body repairs itself.
Yeah.
It's when your muscles rebuild, and it's when your hormones rebalance.
It's essential.
It's essential for both physical and mental recovery.
Okay, so we're coming to the end here.
All right.
But Fit and Amp Fierce gave us some really practical tips to take away.
They did.
So what was the big one that stood out to you?
I think the biggest one was start small.
Okay.
Don't try to do too much too soon.
Yeah.
Start with something manageable like 20 minutes of cardio a few times a week or some basic strength training exercises.
And gradually build up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did they say?
They also stress the importance of rest and recovery.
Yeah.
Both physical and mental.
Yeah.
Don't overtrain. Don't push yourself to the point of burnout.
Yeah.
Because that's counterproductive.
Yeah. And then the other thing they said was get regular health checkups.
Yes.
Which I think, especially for men, it's easy to skip those.
It is.
But they're so important.
They are.
For catching things early.
Absolutely, because prevention is always better than cure.
Yeah. And then finally they said, embrace a sustainable and balanced approach to health.
So find something that works for you.
That you can stick with.
Yeah,
and that you enjoy.
Yes, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
So find something that you can sustain over the long term.
So to recap,
Okay.
men's health, it's not just about physical strength.
Right.
It's about mental well-being.
Yes.
It's about a balanced approach to fitness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about fueling your body with good nutrition.
Right.
And it's about being proactive.
Proactive.
And they're
taking charge.
taking charge, doing those checkups.
Yes.
Prioritizing recovery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
We talked about the societal pressures around men's health.
Yes.
You know, this expectation to be tough, to not show vulnerability.
Right.
What if we redefine strength
Ooh.
to include vulnerability
Okay.
and self-care?
Interesting.
What if taking care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging your needs was seen as a strength?
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah.
I like it.
What do you think that would do?
I think it would change everything.
Yeah.
I think it would change the way men view themselves and the way society views men. And I think it would lead to a lot more men taking care of their health, both physically and mentally.
And I think it would be good for everyone.
For everyone,
Yeah,
not just men.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we all need to take care of ourselves.
We do.
And we all need to be able to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and ask for help when we need it.
Absolutely.
That's real strength.
That's real strength.
Right there.
Yeah. So something to think about.
Food for thought.
Food for thought.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.